Well, this is Lucifera.
Hello, this is Entropy. We've decided to do a video, possibly two, speaking about the different people in Hollywood. You come across a number of Christian videos. Worst ones are the ones that pretend like they're not Christians, who put out these videos here on YouTube that summarily condemn most of what's going on in Hollywood. You may have seen some of these videos from people who pretend not to be preaching the Christian agenda, like Mark Dice, Alex Jones, and the type, who are nothing but Christian shills pretending not to be Christians. They themselves personally may not conduct themselves in a Christian manner. That doesn't mean that they aren't trying to get the Christians to listen to them. And of course, the most horrible, heinous, evil thing for any director, writer, actor in Hollywood to do nowadays is to promote what they call the satanic Luciferian Gnostic agenda. So we'd like to discuss this on both sides. You'd be surprised at what we read between the lines when it comes to many of these Hollywood productions. Not just the ones today either. We'll be going back and discussing some that are several years old. There's an agenda in Hollywood, all right. And most of the agenda in Hollywood has nothing to do with promoting Gnostic Luciferian ideas. However, to start with, we would like to discuss some of the movies that have come out recently that do, in fact, promote a Gnostic Luciferian worldview.
As far as Gnostic Luciferian goes, let me just clarify again what it is. Being a Gnostic is one who seeks knowledge, and a Luciferian is a light bearer. So we Gnostic Luciferians do not worship, well, some may, but for us, we do not worship an entity called Lucifer. The Lucifer is within us. It's the Lucifer consciousness, Christ consciousness, God consciousness.
Lucy and I both, neither of us are theistic, really, in our beliefs. We look at God as part of our nature, as we have spoken of quite often in our other videos, that God is the Christ nature, the Luciferian nature, the Buddha nature is within us. However, many people who would call themselves Luciferians are, in fact, theistic. They look at Lucifer as being an actual entity. Much of what we now know as Luciferianism was started by a woman named Blavatsky. She also seems to be the one who Christians look at as the mother of the New Age movement. We'll discuss her briefly later. Right now, to start with, I want to talk about a man who has become a well-known director in Hollywood, Darren Aronofsky, who has been in Hollywood now for a few years and who has been promoting from the very beginning a Gnostic, Kabbalistic, Luciferian perspective. Out of anyone in the world, on the world stage, if you were, certainly in Hollywood, this man is one of the few allies that you and I and those of you who resonate with what Lucy and I are doing. This guy is one of our few allies. He's actually getting out a lot of these Gnostic ideas, and of course, that terrifies the Christians. I'd like to talk about Aronofsky's debut feature, which was actually, it wasn't very popular. It's still not very popular because it's a very low-budget film. It's this one called Pi, which is named after the mathematical symbol, the mathematical formula of pi, the square root of the circle, 3.14, etc., etc., etc. This film, although, yes, very low budget, is very, for me, it was very eye-opening. I didn't see the film until 1999. That's when it came out on VHS. This is how long ago it was. But at the time, I myself had just become acquainted with the Kabbalah. Now, my foundation that pulled me away from the traditional Christian ideas that I had, many of you may not know this, I at one time was actually a preacher. I was what you call a Sabbatarian, someone who keeps Saturday, affiliated very loosely with what used to be called the Worldwide Church of God, Herbert W. Armstrong. So, those of you who don't think I know much about the Bible, trust me, Christians, I have forgotten more than most of you know. Despite that, I know many of you Christians can't believe that somebody who used to be a preacher could actually be a Gnostic Luciferian. I don't really call myself a Luciferian, but certainly I'm a Gnostic. I see Gnostic and Luciferian as basically the same thing, as Luciferian is a little more theistic. Of course, ultimately now, I'm a Zen Buddhist, but back to Aronofsky. We want to discuss in this first video just the positive aspects of Hollywood, and this man is the most positive force from our perspective, of course, negative force, according to the Christians, that there is out there in Hollywood. When I first saw the movie Pi, which is his debut, I was bowled over by it because I had just become acquainted with the Kabbalah. Now, if it weren't for the Kabbalah, which I'm not majorly into as much, as I was, it does speak to me on a certain level. Of course, there is the Jewish aspect of it that I'm not always in agreement with. However, the Kabbalah does introduce the idea that the divine, that is, the Godhead, has feminine aspects to it. And more than anything, that is what I pulled from it. In 1999, when I had finished my time as a preacher of the Sabbatarian gospel, I had come back here home to Huntsville, and I had become acquainted with the Kabbalah. I won't go into details how that was, but I've become acquainted with it. And this was a foundation that led me eventually to my Gnostic beliefs and led me away from this really low vibrational spiritual understanding that we now call Christendom. Christians weren't meant to be this way. The original church was Gnostic, and the Christ, if he was an actual human being, would have witnessed to the same facts that we're witnessing to now, and that is that this Christ nature is within all of us.
Talking about the Christ nature, everything is on its head. We people like us, would represent the Christ consciousness, and the other side, the conspiracy theorists and these extremist Christians, would represent the Pharisees, and like in the stories of the Bible, Christ was persecuted and condemned and called all kinds of names and even killed. And we are facing the same thing in today's time. So
if Christ were actually a person, and I'm not saying he was or he wasn't, but if he was, he would have been a Kabbalist Jew. He would have been a Kabbalist Jew. And the Gnostics were sort of an offshoot of the Kabbalist. Now, I'm not going to go into great detail about this movie Pi, but you can see in this movie that the nature of science, the major character is a mathematician. His mentor that he speaks with is a mathematician and a scientist, and you can see this is sort of the beginnings of what we're seeing more and more today. First you had this, then of course you have Dan Brown and people like him who are talking about how science in general is more moving back towards its beginnings, and that is the more mystical aspects of it. You could see this with quantum physics, with the references that you have here in this movie Pi, to the golden ratio, to things within math and within science that are all associated back to the original ideas of those who were involved in the mysticism of the time years ago. We're coming full circle, and really you're seeing through people like Aronofsky here, you're really seeing a revival of a sort of second renaissance almost. And it's only affecting, of course, people who are open-minded enough to believe it, while traditional Christendom is really moving back into the Dark Ages.
yeah, we really see some of the Christians and the conspiracy theorists devolving, and fast too. I mean, they have this demonic nature now. And then you have the other side who are, spiritually evolving. I mean, we are moving forward. A lot of people have been feeling the change. I sure have.
What strikes me the worst about people that we constantly get these flack from on YouTube, turn around and then they tell us I'm not a Christian. I'm not a Christian. Can you please stop your bullshit? All right? Just because you don't pray and just because you don't go to church does not mean you're not a Christian. Okay? Okay, if you're out there and you're advocating Christendom, then you're a Christian. Okay? You're just as bad as one. I highly recommend this movie Pi. You might find the plot a little slow, and you might find the production value to be quite low, but it is something that can open up your mind and make you think a little bit. I do highly recommend the movie. It's one of my favorites, actually. Certainly my favorite, what you might call an indie production. I don't know how much money he spent on making this. Oh, okay. Well, here I got it right here. $60,000 is how much he paid to put that movie together. So it's low budget, but it's worth watching just for the value of it, with regards to the philosophy and the theology, even the Gnostic. The Kabbalist. And for those out there who have problems with the fact that we're moving more towards Jewish understanding. Understand this, that our Gnostic roots come from the Kabbalah, and that is Jewish mysticism. We look at the Bible as being primarily allegorical. These are stories that are meant to teach us something that is not necessarily what Christians and Jews usually is not what Orthodox Jews anyway and Christians talk about. So the fact that we're moving our ministry, maybe the word, our testimony, whatever you want to call it, more towards Jewish understanding. Understand this is Kabbalistic Judaism. It's not traditional Orthodox Judaism that you think it might be.
Now, mind you, we don't support traditional Jewish beliefs. Like Entropy was saying, we support more of the Gnostic / Kabbalistic ideas of Judaism and so forth. So, yeah.
Most Jews, Orthodox Jews, are not going to, they don't even look at Kabbalists as being Jewish.
Speaking of more Gnostic, Kabbalistic ideas, here's another film by Aronofsky. It's called Noah. Specifically, I would like to talk about the so-called fallen angels or Nephilim. In the beginning of the movie, we see them descending to Earth, and when they crashed to the Earth, they turned into rock people. This sort of reminds me of, people like us. Those of us who believe we are light beings or angels from above coming to Earth. In the movie, the angels, when they crash to Earth, they become rock, and that symbolizes becoming flesh and being trapped in this flesh.
These fallen angels didn't so much fall as they do descend from heaven, which is comes from the original Luciferian ideas from Blavatsky, which he wrote a book called The Secret Doctrine, which Lucy's much more familiar with than I am. But Blavatsky is definitely, the Christians have a right, although they have everything opposite, saying good is evil and evil is good. She is the real founder of the Luciferian New Age agenda. You see in this movie that these angels, despite what quote unquote God wants them to do, they come down to help mankind, and they're condemned for it. That's the reason why they become these rock monsters.
And it goes really well with what we are doing today. We are coming to help humanity, and look what happens to us. We are condemned and cursed, and even sometimes killed for what we try to bring to humanity.
These are all great metaphors for what we go through personally, not just Lucy and I, but I know a lot of you out there as well. Anyone who's at all resonates with what we have to say, I'm sure has experienced the same thing that we are, the constant condemnation by people who really, quite frankly, don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. Also in this movie, Noah is not portrayed as such a nice, understanding guy, which, of course, if he were to be abiding by the dictates of this demiurge, Yahweh, Jehovah, God, he wouldn't be a very great guy, and he's just depicted not unlike, I would think, that the real, quote-unquote, real Noah would have been.
In the at the end of the movie, there's one part I sort of disagree with, but it's still very interesting. Is that at the end the angels ascend back to this God. Now I don't see it necessarily this way. I see when the angels break free of their rock body, it's a symbol of ascension and back to where they belong. But in regards to the movie, they ascend back to the Creator. This is where I sort of disagree.
Aronofsky sort of skirting a very thin line here. He's trying to get less traditional Christians interested in this sort of an approach that would appeal to people like Lucy and I were 20 years ago. At least me 20 years, her maybe a little less than that. Back when when I was in my late 20s, when she was in her late 20s, which it was more recently for her. As Lucy said, we don't resonate with everything in this movie, but I think Aronofsky's trying to approach people who are, at a level where they're just becoming dissatisfied with the traditional Christian ideas. They might still call themselves Christians. So this is a good movie for those on that particular wavelength. I certainly would have liked it a lot more several years ago, I would think, when I was still a Christian and sort of questioning about a lot of these things. It's very Kabbalistic with regards to the Nephilim and whatnot. Unfortunately, I don't want to make this video an hour long, so we are going to have to move this to another video here in a couple of days. We'll continue to discuss some of the other movies that have come out that are sort of paving the way for people to open their mindset to new ideas, new concepts. Sort of, like I say, we're witnessing a renaissance here with some of these people. Then I would also, we will also be discussing some of the movies that are popular that come out that actually cast the bad guy, cast the person that is doing really the will of people like you and I, those who are witness to what's going on here in this world. Really, the two categories that people are going to be falling into is not good and evil. This is a very subjective idea, good and evil. The two categories people are going to be falling into is whether they're going to be supporting the end and destruction of this age, or whether they're going to continue with the way things are going. People who want to talk about patriotism and things like that, a lot of these truthers and whatnot, folks, you are supporting the way things are today. You are supporting it. You're not going back. You don't even understand the traditional original patriots. The patriots of this country, folks, and I could go on and on and on about this, the patriots of this country were more Gnostic and Kabbalistic, Gnostic and Luciferian, I should say, Luciferian, much more Luciferian in their ideals than anybody is today. The original patriots that you talk about were Luciferians. Maybe not in practice, they didn't call themselves that, but trust me, they were Luciferians. They were not Christians, folks. So those of you who are supporting the idea of going back to the original way things were back when this country was founded, those were Luciferian beliefs.
And you guys, a lot of you condemn the Masons. Well, even the founding fathers were Masons too. So
it's it's bizarre because you all pull yourself into all different ways. So let me end this, since I'm discussing this. Let's end this this particular video with a Bible verse for you out there who call yourself Christian, sort of, supporters of patriots, sort of. You're patriotic, but then yet you condemn Masons and the New World Order and everything else. Let me give you a Bible verse to end this particular video. James 1, chapter 1, verse 8. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Boy, if this doesn't describe 90% of you people who go against us, come on our videos and tell us to fuck off. You know what? You fuck off. I'm not mixing words anymore. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of you, and I'm tired of it. And if you want to continue to stay tuned, for those of you who are, I know a lot of you have had your gut full too. But what are you going to do about it? That's the question. What can you actively do about it? Well, stay tuned, because we're going to answer those questions in the videos to come.
As Entropy was saying earlier, or just a few minutes ago, these bad guys in the movie, some of these movies are portrayed in such a way. I would say to you that if you continue in the way we go, us light bearers, and as you know, we are hated, just know we are going to be condemned, and we're going to be called all kinds of names. We are going to be called, terrorists. We're going to be called Satan, Antichrist. We'll get more into that in the videos to come. But be strong and don't give in. And
if you had your gut full, as we have, I think you're gonna really enjoy the next videos that we're going to be doing. Well, I just want to say, for those of you who support us and have been there for us, and those of you who have come out and thanked us for what we're out here doing. We're putting ourselves out there. Thank you for your support, and like I say, stay tuned. You really want to support these ideas. We're not looking for money, but if you want to support these ideas, then there are things that you can do to support it. And for those of you who go on our videos and curse us and condemn us and call us evil, I just have one thing to say to you, and that's go fuck yourself. All right? I'm sick of it, and I'm not going to mix words anymore. So, this is Entropy 666 signing off.
This is Lucifera signing off.